So essentially, if there's more than one type of toothpaste, you want to seek out which is the best. And that's kind of where we were pre-internet and kind of an attention-based kind of existence. And it's really interesting hearing kind of, the fact that people would rather cut off their fingers than give up their phone in many cases, because where we are now is a situation where there is so much information, there is so much knowledge out there that's way, way more than anyone could ever care to try and consume. And there's Kim up there as a representation of that kind of attention-based economy, whereby we have this kind of situation where the supply of information has so wildly exceeded demand for that stuff that effectively we've got this deficit which exists in this attention-based economy. And for anyone that may have also studied economics at university knows that whenever you have a deficit, there are bad things that happen. You might call it an externality, but there are some things that happen and someone always loses out. We have a situation where we have to really fight and think about how to get people's attention and how to get them to kind of have a relationship with us as an advertiser or as a publisher like Vice.
I'm talking about keeping our users' attention, and when we build products at Tinder and the Match Group, we build our product experience and features with advertising in mind. For example, our advertising on Tinder is a purely native experience. If you don't like the ad, you swipe it left and you'll never see it again. It's an exact extension of how we work with our users. If you see a profile that you don't like, you swipe left, you'll never see it. Again, you'll get a frequency cap of 1. In this instance, the ad works in the same way. If you swipe right on the ad, on what we call a branded profile card or a native branded profile card, then you will be able to engage and connect with that brand, and the brand will be able to pass you a message. So it's kind of like selective advertising, and I think it's really relevant for us that all of our advertising opportunities are purely native. And I think that understanding emotion and human engagement, obviously as a dating company, is something that is critical to our business and really underpins our success in this area. New technology companies are beginning to measure and target not mere exposure to information, but the resulting human emotions. So in this particular campaign, we are saying, take away the cliche of the beautiful, perfect model that you use in a picture to advertise your solutions, and actually look at something that has a more emotional bond and a real relevance to our actual users. And we go right through to actually asking users now to list their imperfections from a drop down list, so that people can actually search on our site through those imperfections. I won't go into the marketing spiel behind it, but we have double-digit increases in engagement and activation of our members on the Match.com site. So I think
people are not really consuming content. So if you think about your own content consumption habits, if you think about when you were looking, on the tube on the way in this morning, or when you're commuting, and you were looking at the things that you usually look at, were you really reading the entirety of that article, or were you skimming through it? And did you even realize you were skimming through it? So this might not apply to everyone, but the evidence is showing that 80% of people are just scanning content. They're not really reading it. And I would say that's even true for the platforms that boast the most amount of engagement. So if you look at Instagram stories, if you look at Snapchat stories, do you really engage with every single piece of that content, or do you compulsively try and get through every single story that appears on your feed because it's a compulsion?
If we look at comparing TV to digital, which a lot of people do, which is evidenced by people just taking a TV advert and dropping it into Facebook, which just never works, right? Let's just think about a traditional TV experience overlaid with a digital one. You're watching Orange is the New Black or Game of Thrones at home, and then all of a sudden 5 or 6 ads pop up on the side of the screen. In digital, this is commonplace. This is what happens. They're all kind of competing for something, right? And I think that kind of comes back to the point about what Mode is all about and what we're here to talk about, which is attention. All of those things are competing for one thing, which is, as Alistair mentioned earlier, the scarcest resource that we all have as human beings because of all of the different screens we have in front of us. So attention is a pretty simple concept. It means noticing something and then potentially taking an action on it. It's not that easy to measure though. as a measurement company, we try to solve for this by providing a number of metrics around this, but there isn't a silver bullet to understand it. So we're taking a quick interaction kind of slide here. I asked everyone to just quickly look around this page. I know it's a couple years old, but bear with me. I want to ask you, how many ads did you see on that page? And you can just scream it out. 4, that's a lot. Do you remember any of them? It's pretty good as well. So you remember 2 out of 4. It's not bad. There's actually 6 ads in this page. And I think the point is that there's a Marc Jacobs on either end, the ears of the New York Times. There's a Capital One ad next to the search bar. There's Captain Phillips, obviously. And then there's the NYU at the bottom and a New York Times ad. The idea here is that these are all served to human beings in this room. They're all technically viewable ads and what's arguably the most premium publisher in the United States. If you're going through any dashboard or reporting interface or tool and you check a box for human and viewable, they all hit that. And that's a big problem when you're trying to understand real attention, because in reality, what you're buying programmatically a lot in desktop is something like this, an actual screenshot of the web where, again, they're all human and viewable, which is pretty terrible experience for a brand.